And we live. We're alive. Yeah. Felt like the longest weekend ever for some weird reason. All right, first up on the tab of today's things that I would like to watch, we have Riot just sold out. The industry will follow. Beluar News. I can never pronounce that word. Let's go with Beluar News. Yes. Let's see what this is about.
Gambling sponsors are now targeting predominantly young men through esports, and today Riot Games is basically about to make the whole thing much worse. But just so this is in context, this is the same industry that's linked to a 25% rise in US bankruptcy filings, so that's lovely, and young men in low-income regions.
Oh, so it's about all the gambling crap. Yeah, they have been posting that a lot in my chats and weird Bitcoin comments in my videos. I don't know what it's about. People and bots are weird. Just for all the dudes trying to advertise to me, I'm not interested. Quite literally, I don't care. I'm not interested in any of your advertisements or anything that you're providing. I'm not going to gamble. I'm not going to go to your website and artificially inflate my numbers. It's not going to do me any good. So stop posting. Go away. Go bother somebody else who's more gullible, because I am not.
Are the hardest hit population group. So with that in mind, now we get to talk about how the biggest name in esports has just opened the goddamn floodgates. In short, Riot Games is allowing betting sponsors into League of Legends and into Valorant. And by making this move, they give every other esports league justification to follow. Basically, these
This is what's going to create serious in gambling for players to throw games or to do something to create the betting odds in their favor. Because it's a weird thing. For example, there's NBA players and NFL players who've been caught betting on their own games. And the thing about that is why are they betting a few thousand when they're making millions just playing the game? What do they get? What's the point? Why would you bet risking your entire NBA or NFL career for a few $1,000s compared to the 1 million you get per game you play? It makes no sense. I don't understand the logic behind it. I make $250 million a year. Oh, cool. I'm gonna go and gamble on this. You are now suspended for the year. Oh, well, now I'm not getting anything. That was just a few $1,000s. Oh, logic.
Companies know exactly who they are reaching. Now they have a direct pipeline. Here's the change. Sports betting sponsorships are coming to pro teams in North America, Europe, and the Middle East. Now, Riot first considered this in December 2024, but now the president, John Needham, has published this lovely blog post. It outlines what's happening and why they're doing it, plus how they plan to minimize risk. Now, you might be wondering.
First of all, there's nothing they can do, because they don't have the same resources as like the NFL and the NBA, who can literally trace back these moron players who bet on their own games and referees too, and expect that the teams are and these people doing it aren't going to do it. People are stupid. They make more than what they're betting on, but they still bet. It's so weird. I don't understand the attraction to drinking, the attraction to smoking, the attraction to gambling. I don't get it. I just don't. I don't see the attraction.
Why now? And their justification is fairly simple. They say the teams have been asking for gambling sponsors for years. Obviously, because...
Okay, gambling sponsors, I can get that. But man, I just don't understand the attraction to players who want to indict and destroy their own careers through illegal betting.
It's a lot of money, and audiences are already gambling. And here's the scale. League and Valorant generate 10.7 billion in gambling. But there is a problem, and that problem is that 70% of those bets are happening in unregulated bookies. And the unregulated part is what bothers Riot. Now, they say it's unsafe because people may lose money because these sites can be unscrupulous. And that absolutely is a risk. Of course, the other side is, people losing absolute humongous amounts of money via traditional gambling, working as intended. Here's the basic logic they're using. So, you know how teenagers will be tempted to drink alcohol? So you might think it's better to give them something light under...
My grandfather let me try my first beer when I was I think 13. And when I tried it, I spit that crap out. It was instant. It was not for me.
Supervision, rather than have them, drink Tesco value vodka in a field somewhere. But the question, right, is that by legitimizing it, by making it more normal, giving it way more exposure, will you reduce the average damage done per individual, but actually cause far more harm overall because you've just went and expanded the market to way more people by making it easier to access? And would that actually mean, ran over time, that you'd start to find more really, really bad problem gambling cases, because basically you're going to reach way more people, and that means way more people who could potentially fall into problem gambling. That's certainly my worry, but first, let's take a look at what this will actually look like in esports. A fun thing about this is Riot absolutely knows how this can be bad luck and all of the potential problems, so there is a degree of supervision from them in that they will personally vet every single sponsor. They also say they'll make sure that partnered betting services are using Riot-approved data, which will mean that nobody gets actively manipulated. But there is a bit more. Teams are going to have to self-regulate their partnerships, and Riot's going to demand that each team makes an internal integrity program. So that they can investigate themselves. As for what that's got to be, Riot says, a self-defined policy for selecting sponsorships. I don't know, it doesn't seem like the highest bar on the earth to me. Teams can be held to this, though, by Riot and by fans, so you can see why they want to do this. It's kind of like a PR incentive thing, and it's all designed to keep bad actors out of things. And of course, money is going to be trickled down, just like how many gambling policies work.
Again, if it worked, it wouldn't happen in the NFL and the NBA. But it just doesn't. These players are young kids, and you can bet your hard-earned money, the irony, your hard-earned money on the fact that they are going to place illegal bets and throw games just to win a few thousand compared to their $1 million contracts. That's what's going to happen, man. It's already going to happen because they just do it. It's the human condition for some people, and they just do not give a crap.
Riot say that they'll take a portion of the revenue, and they say they'll invest that in Tier 2 esports programs. So the implication basically, right, is that these sponsors will become preferred betting partners, and in theory that's safer than unregulated bookies, and that basically money from all of this is going to go into the more grassroots side of esports. So really, dear gamer, all of this gambling is in fact good for you. Brackets, it's going to make all of us a shitload of money. But here's the thing, with how Riot are doing this, they are absolutely being cowardly, right? Because they've not fully committed to this. If Riot had have simply said, look, we want sport betting in our league as a part of the financial ecosystem, then they could have said that, maybe just like any other advertising thing. But
yeah, companies try to paint things in glossy, fancy words, and it'd just be nice if you're just direct and say, we just want more money, so we're taking on these types of sponsors. That's it. That's all they have to say. But this PC culture we're in, it's always pick and choose your words, try to make it glowed up, and it doesn't, the majority of us aren't that stupid. We can see right through you. But then again, we're not the target audience. I mean, let's be real. I don't watch esports. I don't pay attention to it. I don't know what goes on with it. I just know it's now a sports league, and that's it. That's all I know.
But instead, no. They are hedging their bets. You see, they still insist that gambling is bad, right? I mean, otherwise, why ensure that it's not officially connected? And even after vetting, well, just take a look at this. Riot-owned broadcast and social channels have got to stay betting free. That means no ads, it means no sponsored segments from betting partners, and it means no betting partner logos on team jerseys. So that's quite funny when you think about it. It is putting the pressure on everyone else. Official streams, absolutely no gambling. So who's going to get stuck with it? Well, I think the answer is fairly obvious, and we know that it's the team owners who really wanted this. So they're going to have to figure out where to put their contractually obligated sponsor content, and almost certainly that means pressure on players, or doing things like event co-streams. And those are actually not small numbers. As an example, co-casters of the 2024 Worlds made up 87.5 million hours, which is 45% of all event streams. So that's actually huge. Now, teams are going to have to walk quite the tightrope here. Basically, they've got to navigate platform policies and local laws, and as they do all of that, Riot will be raking in cash for permitting this. So the takeaway is quite a funny one. Riot Games thinks that betting ads are okay, but only if they're from chosen partners, and they don't think they're okay if they've got to advertise it themselves. Say, by a team having a logo on a jersey and that team going to an event that they broadcast. Just quite weird, and it does look rather cowardly, like they're kind of trying to have it both ways. And if it doesn't seem convincing to you, well, it doesn't seem convincing to me, and I don't think it should to either of us. It's no surprise that the public reaction here has been absolute skepticism at every level. So with it looking so strange, why do Riot and these teams think that this is the way forward? The answer is very simple. Guaranteed money. Who doesn't want some guaranteed money? Essentially, esports groups have not really had that much guaranteed money lately. The esports winter started ages ago, and it's still happening. We're seeing layoffs, we're seeing closures. Now, Saudi Arabian wealth has somewhat helped because, they want to do some... I've forgotten the word of it, but it's kind of when you launder your reputation through sports. It's a very well-known thing. And obviously, Saudi money has got its own ethical concerns. So with all that floating around, basically, this is more consistent revenue from an industry that's desperate to expand and is desperate for consistent revenue. But of course, this is all happening in a way that benefits Riot, but does not benefit viewers. How many viewers would never have touched gambling before this? I don't know, but it's probably a lot. And what Riot have done is they've opened the door for that to happen, right? By normalizing it. And this doesn't even address some of the wider problems.
This brings into question just how dumb are the people that watch this stuff? Like, how easily do they fall into the void of, oh, they're showing this ad. I must go to this thing and do it. I must buy that thing. How often does that happen? Like, how easily do people fall into that? Because I'm curious. How quickly does their money burn a hole in their pocket? Because honestly, I would like to know what the research is on that.
Problems. Take a look at all of those gacha-based cosmetics that Riot rolls out, and I'm sure you've seen the headlines, right, of like $350 to get like the big event skin. Well, funnily enough, a lot of people would say that that's kind of like the same as gambling. I mean, sure, you can't cash out, but it's probability-based bullshit to get an item that you want. Well,
weird. They make Jinx look a lot happier in the game, even though she's super crazy and depressed in her actual series.
Now they would be feeding that sort of audience, one that they're cultivating with all these gacha mechanics, directly into betting companies. So I feel like if there's people who are going to be problematic with gacha and get themselves into bother, there's probably a lot of crossover with people who will get themselves into gambling bother. And financial trouble from gambling hits young men in low-income regions the hardest. It's rough stuff, right? And studies do suggest that, of course, that is the exact demographic that is also the most likely to bet on esports. The case you can make for this leading to a lot of problems is, I think, pretty compelling. I mean, it's targeting the same group that is proven to show more problem gambling behavior than other groups. And then, of course, there's the risk to athletes themselves. And this is something that's not commonly thought about. Now, of course, esports people, they'll face match-fixing allegations as, in traditional sports. But now there's an entire new type of hostility for them. Because when somebody loses a bet on one of these sites, on the team that promoted that betting site, that anger can now go straight to the players. Blame can go straight to the players. And that's not me speculating. This is the actual experience of athletes in physical sports. And it's one that's gotten far worse with micro-betting and app-based gambling that just, well, make it far easier to engage in all that shit. Here's a really fun quote. A December study by 4 of the biggest tennis federations in the world found that angry gamblers were responsible for nearly half of the 12,000 abusive social media posts directed at tennis players that year.
Again, the majority of the people that post that stuff, though, think they're safe online and that they can't get traced. That's what they think. They think they're safe. But fun fact, everyone, you're not. You're not. People can find you. It's not hard. Look at the H3H3 suit that's currently going on. He managed to get the approval of a judge to find all the information on all these Reddit moderators who literally were threatening his kids, threatening him, and mailing him things that were threatening. And he went straight after them. And 3 other content creators. But he can get that information from Reddit, from Twitter, from Discord. They don't want to deal with this crap, so yeah, they're gonna give it up. I mean, I just find it weird that people post nasty stuff like that. I post comments when I disagree with something, but I don't post, "You're an ugly fat cow, get out of here." Like, what? Why would you say that? Like, what's that doing for you over on the internet? Rather, it's just a disgusting trend. It shouldn't be allowed, yet people still do it because they think they're safe online and they can say whatever they want. Fun fact, you really can't.
So that's, not great. And all of this is before we talk about how gambling changes the culture. And of course, in this context, it's changing the culture around our games. And that, of course, can hurt how our games are made and designed. We can begin this whole game.
I think they've already been hurt. I mean, live service games and gacha games, I mean, they quite literally are already doing it. I don't think you can hurt it anymore. You've reached the peak hurt. The most you get is more regulation from European governments or the United States government.
Gambling thing with the very obvious black market of CSGO skins, right? So skin gambling is already fairly entrenched. But these companies, they crave something more. They crave legitimacy. And Riot Games just gave them that. You see, gambling groups and online casinos have tried to break into gaming for years and years and years. And we've seen this in many ways, like say...
Dude, gambling streamers are the cringiest stuff to watch. It's cringe. How can you watch that? They literally just sit there screaming at things, "Oh my god, I'm going to unlock this. It's unbelievable." And people are buying into this? That is some weird mentality you gotta have to believe that.
Say press sites getting flooded with sponsored post offers. I actually get loads of sponsored post offers from similarly sketchy shit that, of course, I decline because I don't want to promote gambling to people. But the whole point in all of this is about normalizing the advertising of gambling.
See, look at this streamer right here in that top left-hand corner and how fake his excitement is. It's straight up fake. But people go here to watch this, and you watch their comments through the stream with the chat, and they're just all happy. They're just like, "Oh my gosh, this is so great. Oh wow, this is awesome. Oh wow, I need to do that. Oh my gosh." It's like half of them I feel like are bots.
Right? Getting it in front of an audience who are familiar with the idea of playing odds. And we can take a look at this already happening. For one, The Escapist immediately began running ads after being sold. And those ads included best offshore casinos for US players and best online casinos in the US. Lovely stuff. Meanwhile, Aftermath covered the Adventure Games Forum sale. This is wild. 20 years of archives were purged, but do you know what was added? Gambling coverage with advertising. Lovely. So, it's not about the games. It's not about gaming culture. It's about getting gambling in front of more eyes, so it's normalized. That's one piece of the puzzle. Get more people to see gambling in the context of gaming. The next piece of the puzzle, well, that's to make it legitimate. To make it legitimate, to make it feel legitimate, you gotta get someone like Riot.
Look, There have been gambling groups trying to get certain types of gambling involved, like in Texas, pushed for decades and have failed at every turn. I mean, gambling's already very, very predicated in most games nowadays. Live service games with randomizers, gotchas, which are purely randomizers, and it's all RNG. Random numbers generator. That's all it is. It's something that's already here. So, I mean, what he's telling us is already existing even now. It can't get any worse other than legalizing it in places where it wasn't before.
Head on board. And that is exactly what Riot have been seemingly happy to do. Okay, I'll turn the focus back to Riot. Now, on this channel, we've extensively covered Riot's financial concerns, and because of all that, we do kind of know why they're approving this now. Teams, of course, need to survive the esports winter. That's very important for Riot. It's important to their whole business model, the culture around their game, the culture that drives all those skin sales. Now, of course, Riot gets a cut of that lovely guaranteed revenue, but they're not comfortable with this decision, or else they wouldn't have framed it as being a risky thing. They wouldn't have banned it from official streams. They also know the players won't like it. They're doing it anyway, and now the floodgates are very much...
The problem is Twitch. Twitch runs gambling ads over streamers. So what's to stop Twitch from running those ads over their over the streamers who aren't even contracted with them as partners? And if they're official streams, what are the chances that a gambling ad is going to play on it? I mean, I don't know how Riot's going to enforce that. Twitch is a totally separate entity.
Much opened, because every competitive esports scene, from the perspective of financial incentives, they all want these sponsors to get a green light. And if this is happening with Riot, right? If Riot can get comfortable and take the flak for being a bit of a first mover, then smaller groups will also move. And that means we are going to be looking at a very different industry in a few years. And frankly, it's an industry that is shown to be a true parasite. And it's one of those things, look, adults can spend money on whatever the hell they want. Sure, right, I absolutely get that. But I think there is a concept that you need to keep in mind whenever we're sort of making like libertarian rooted arguments. And that is the simple concept of an unpriced negative externality. The point essentially being that, say, gambling, right? That leads to a whole bunch of social problems. Those social problems then, guess what? Cause problems in the community. Now that can mean that the state has got to spend money because it furthers a whole bunch of bad outcomes. Obviously, there's problems within families, problems in the community.
It feels like sometimes when adults can't take care of themselves, the government does it for them. And that's sad.
Now that is something that we all pay a price for. Do you know who does not really pay a price for that? The gambling companies. It is an unpriced negative externality. So it's one of those things. Freedom to gamble, positive freedom, that's one thing. But what about freedom from all of the negative bullshit that stems from gambling, that gambling companies inflict upon us, but do not pay for themselves? What do you think about that?
I think it falls back to the same situation. Parents need to parent their kids. And then when those kids grow up, they are responsible for parenting themselves. And if they can't parent themselves, then that's their faults. It's a consequence of them not wanting to learn from what they did. I mean, I know there's some brain chemistry going on when it comes to addiction, and I know that can lead to addictive gambling and problems, but I just don't see the reason for more regulation with government, especially at the federal level, for this kind of stuff. It gets out of control, where the government's just got to let people be people and stop policing those people. But it depends, because there's just some people who don't do well, period. And they're just...
Hey there everyone, if you enjoy this content, like and subscribe, and comment down below. Thanks again.